I would like to thank you, grazie, Alberto, and I would like to thank you all for being patient enough to stay and listen to sometimes maybe boring issues. But I really could talk much longer than, let's say, approximately 12 minutes I have been given for this subject. First of all, I would like to say that I unfortunately would not agree with Alberto with what he has said about his recent visit to Belgrade. Yes, we have got some new information laws, but even until now, we did not have that bad laws. The problem was always, as it will be, I am sure, in the future, their implementation. How it is going to develop, we'll see. But first of all, I am here not only on behalf of Serbia and my newspaper, Danas, I am here as a representative of SEEMO, one of the founders of the SEEMO. And let me talk about this subject. Southeast Europe Media Organization, SEEMO, was established in October 2000 as a regional affiliate of International Press Institute, IPI. It is an association committed to defend basic press freedoms, to achieve better understanding among the journalists and the peoples, improve the standards and practices of the journalism, ensure the safety of the journalists, and to enable them to work without obstructions. It now assembles over 1,500 leading journalists, editors, and media workers from around 20 countries, comprising the whole Southeast Europe as well as a large part of Central Europe. Though the South, Central, and Eastern regions of Europe covered by SEEMO activities include 10 EU member states and several others in the process of negotiating accession to the Union or aspiring to join the European family, the media situation there is far from satisfying. It is really a discouraging fact that after more than a quarter of a century, once the freedom finally prevailed on the eastern side of the former Iron Curtain, things on the media scene did not change too much for the better. Media outlets, as well individual journalists, are too often the targets of threats, pressures, limitations, or even direct attacks by various interest groups, underworld figures, or political entities led by democratically elected leaders, and often confronted with more complex challenges and problems than in communist era. Despite all public pledges, current establishments did not and do not treat the media as a pillar of democracy, a stand that is officially accepted, at least in general, and keep up looking upon the media as their service and tools. Far too many media workers have been exposed to an array of political, financial, or physical pressures, risks, assaults, or simply dismissals. Also, too many colleagues are still living and working under constant police surveillance and protection. Too many brutal offenses or even assassinations of journalists and media workers remain unresolved while perpetrators still enjoy impunity. New men in towns of Southeast, East, and Central Europe, of course, learned well some lessons from the past and execute old practice in more sophisticated way. But at the end, everything leads to the same essence. Nobody wants to take their hands off the steering wheel of media outlets. These societies seem to be full of with people who would like to be editors-in-chief, not professionally, of course. Political parties, interest groups, individual politicians, even NGOs know the best how newspapers, weeklies, radio and TV stations, web portals should be led, run, and edited. They dispatch their wishes, pleas, messages, and instructions repeatedly, but mostly in informal way, by phone or by talking tete-a-tete to the individual editors or journalists. Or, when they feel it necessary, they attack directly and brutally from their party's rostrums at the press conferences and through the media they control. Restrictive laws and practice from earlier times are still there. And what seems really ominous, too many journalists and media again accept such behavior. Appalling is their obedient readiness to listen to the voices of new masters, or to guess in advance their wishes, instead of making decisive steps toward serious, analytical, and investigative journalism. In such situation, those essential critical public voices are in real danger, because those which were and will be ready to address all fundamental issues from the past, present, and in the future in a responsible and professional manner can be extinguished rather easily by imposing even stricter economic measures, pushing such media to become self-sustainable at any cost. In practice, it would mean commercialization of all those who think their goal or mission in current situation is more than just making money. The whole range of recent public and professional debates about the condition of the press in the countries of this region all too often reveals the ugly backside of the countless official and professional pledges to democracy, impartiality, and liberty, and expose the sad media and societal landscape full of unpleasant truth. The questions about these harsh realities are almost numberless. Do we, the journalists in Southeast, East, and Central Europe, really help our societies to become truly free? Are we trustworthy interpreters between our governments and the people? Are we professional enough, honest, courageous, and unbiased enough to execute our basic duty? Are we real journalists or PR specialists who do not care about the public interest, but of interest of our bosses, business, or political ones? Are we still agents of democracy? And what are we by profession? Journalists or Serbs, Italians, Croats, Albanians, or any other nationals in this part of the globe? In some countries, it is almost impossible to make difference between PR and journalism, complain our colleagues, whether they are from Belarus or Turkey, Serbia or Montenegro. We have the Berlusconization of the media without Berlusconi, say our colleagues from Croatia, while those from Bosnia helplessly admit that we have forgotten even the notion of the struggle for the freedom of the press, and that media are too often the cover-up for some other real business. And membership in EU is not a warranty of press freedom. Look at the examples and official media policies in Hungary, Bulgaria, Greece, Romania, Croatia. That sad reality also shows at least two things. First, too many journalists and editors, media, and their owners too quickly and obediently accept to listen to their new master's voice. Second, no freedom is meant by itself or won for good. It must be said here, we talk louder and report in more detail about the outside threats and official pressures that put in danger freedom of expression and the liberty of the press in general than about some harmful practice and ugly deeds in our ranks and media outlets, which can be equally damaging for our professional credibility, but even more for the public interest. During the early years of Southeast Europe Media Organization, SEEMO was able to provide a sort of a shelter for regional colleagues in serious trouble. It also provided necessary aid to journalists who received death threats. Unfortunately, these days are long gone, and we were forced to change our efforts to protect the journalists by making written protests which were and are sent to the authorities of the countries concerned. Our main activity is to protect press freedom by helping journalists and media outlets by making their problems known as wide as possible. Each SEEMO protest or press release is distributed to the leading regional and international media, national and international governmental bodies and NGOs, politicians, and public persons and institutions. Of course, SEEMO has press freedom web pages. Missions and monitoring visits are also parts of its regular press freedom activities. On the occasion of the World Press Freedom Day, each May, SEEMO makes an account of the press freedom violations and abuses in all countries under our umbrella. Usually, there are 30 press releases and about 10 protests per month. But take note, these documents are about relevant, reported, and verified incidents only. That may be just the tip of the iceberg, since nobody knows how many of them goes unreported. There is a sort of paradox, however. Many of these pleas and requests had and still have encouraging effects. Over 60% of SEEMO press releases and letters of protest to governmental and other officials have yielded positive results, in general, so to say. In practice, in too many countries, nevertheless, general working conditions for our colleagues did not change for the better. That is why, most recently, SEEMO tried to help journalists in the region by providing them with a practical safety net manual, which contains concrete examples and advice about how to behave and react in extraordinary situations. In 12 languages, local and English, the manual offers a variety of references from colleagues who experienced a range of different threats, pressures, and other professional challenges. It was done in cooperation with Osservatorio Balcani e Caucaso, if I am correct. Let me be absolutely clear. Journalists and editors in SEEMO do not want to be so-called fourth estate, not only because there are no real three estates anymore. We want to be dedicated, free, and professional helpers and the voice of the commons, so to say, of equally free and fairly informed and concerned citizens of our countries. So, if we really do want our countries and society to be free and to thrive, we must not be fettered or frightened by those in position of authority and power. Self-censorship is, in that sense, worse and more damaging than the censorship itself, since it voluntarily sacrifices the basic values of our indispensable job. However, at the end, I have to say that I am not a pessimist. Do not worry. Things will become worse, for sure. But are we going to give up? No way, for sure. Thanks, and grazie molto.